Yo guys, what's going on? Welcome back to another weekly forecast. And before we get started, I do want to mention something from the VIP channel, and you pretty much can see it right away. I've kind of hit my losing streak, and I want to just touch on this and how I've sort of handled it psychologically, because a lot of people can go on tilt when they have a lot of losses in a row, and this happens to every trader. You will end up facing a losing streak at least one time in your trading career. And I think this is something I want to mention for the VIPs as well, because it does get to people in the group saying that, oh, yo, what's going on? Hitting quite a lot of losses. But I guess it does end up happening quite often. But it just depends on how you manage it, again, with your mindset. Because what could happen is if you take a loss and then take another loss, you will likely be more inclined to start increasing the risk to make that money back. Because, say, for example, you're doing a prop firm challenge, or you're doing you have to reach some sort of target, and you're getting further away from that target. Again, being in drawdown and being a negative from the starting balance can affect you psychologically initially first, and then you're going to sort of start thinking of, right, I'm getting further and further away, I'm going to start increasing the risk. But if you're on a losing streak and you increase the risk, you will get even further away. And this is what I wanted to just touch on, is that I kept the sort of the risk the same regardless, because if you're above the starting balance, and this is going to be specific for the people who are doing like prop firm challenges, because I'm doing some of them as well. If you are below the starting balance, I would always recommend to keep it at a 0.5% risk regardless. That will give you a good chance to sort of slowly climb back. It won't be too low of a risk as well, but it won't be too great of a risk, because you still have a decent amount of trades that you can end up losing before you hit the overall loss limit. Rather than increasing it to 1-2%, and then you will just take a big chunk out of your daily loss limit, and you'll end up getting closer to failing the challenge, because you don't know how long your loss streak will end up lasting. It could be 4 trades, it could be 6 trades, it could be 8 trades. And keeping it at that solid 0.5% will mean that at least, what I took 4 trades last week, and that's only minus 2%. Whereas if each one of them were 1% each, that would have been a 4% loss, and then you technically only got 6% more left. And that could sort of increase if you do 2%, 2%, 2%. So that's just a quick thing I just do want to touch on. And another thing was, it could also affect your mindset and saying that your strategy doesn't work. But you've seen me, I've been in the game for like a decent amount of time, say around about 2-3 years now, and I've just sort of adjusted the strategy slowly, and I know it works, because we wouldn't have people following me in the VIP, and we wouldn't have many people in the free channel as well, so, listening to my advice I give in terms of the analysis in the market. So with the back testing that I've done, I'm pretty confident that the strategy, yes, it does work. Because if I go into the daily time from here, you can see how far I've gone back on gold. So I've done a decent amount of back testing with this strategy, and I do say that, yes, okay. One funny thing was, I did want to mention, was before I started this week, I did some more back testing and on the strategy, and it was probably the time frame I was backtesting, because again, backtesting is different to live markets, because you're looking at the data after the candle's printed. But what gets to people is, as the candle's currently printing, to enter in the live market, it's a lot different, because when I was doing my backtesting with the strategy, I slightly adjusted for this week. It had like a 90% win rate. Probably, I think it was 100% win rate. And none of the trades ended up losing. So I was so confident coming into this week, using that. And then you could see from here that it was like, it was 100% loss rate just for this week, obviously. And then that was sort of one of those that ended up getting like, what was going on? Did I backtest correctly? But I'm definitely sure that because it was live market, the trade did end up going in the direction. A lot of the time, I think it was, especially on gold, this Friday move, I was definitely expecting a move down. But what happened is that the move down sort of came after our time zone of entries. So when I was backtesting, the time zone was between around about, say, US session open to around about New York Stock Exchange open, sort of around about that time. So that's like the decent timing I would like to sort of enter. But this drop ended up happening on Friday. It was like 2-3 hours after I would normally enter the trade. So that's one of the things that ended up getting to me, like, what I get. We did expect price to end up pushing lower after taking out these equal highs, but price extended like 300 pips first and then ended up dropping. So it's just like, okay, it was on Friday. Friday wasn't for us. Cool. Until I'm expecting something next week. Hopefully, make it a lot easier to trade. But it's just little things that I just wanted to mention, and hopefully you guys can take this stuff on board. That if you have the back testing done and you have the history and your data to back that, okay, the strategy does have an edge, it does have more than a 50% win rate, and you can extract a certain amount of pips, or you're getting a 1-to-2 risk reward ratio, and you can see that it works countless number of times, I would advise not to go on strategy jump, because a lot of people do that. They go from different strategy and keep jumping, but you'll always be on that same. If you keep changing your strategy, you'll always be on that same 10% of you getting used to that strategy. And if you change, okay, it's back to the beginning. You have to get used to a new strategy, and then your mindset has to always keep adjusting. Whereas if you stick to one strategy, you know that, okay, it works, I just need to improve it here and there, then at least that way you will get, you're already at like, say, 20%, your mindset sort of adjusted to it, and then you stay on it for another few weeks, just changing it here and there, and then you'll get more and more confident with the strategy and say that, look, I've seen this happen for like 4 weeks in a row. What are the probabilities that it won't happen again? Okay, cool, there'll be more than a 50% chance that it will likely happen. I'm likely to risk the trade on that, and then more often than not, it does end up working. So I would always suggest stick to the strategy, and that's exactly what I'm going to do into next week. I'm not going to completely change. The strategy has always been the same. There's many traders that I know who are very good and very consistent and have had a losing week on the last week. So it's just, it depends on market conditions. Again, gold is very hard at the moment to trade because we're currently taking out all-time highs every time. There's no specific target on where price would end up going to turn around. So in this case, for Friday, if I quickly just touch on this, we were expecting price to end up reversing because price was very high based on where price opened, and that price started pushing up. And then we cannot look at anything towards on the left hand side here to see where price advanced, because there's no sort of structure on the left at the moment, because of, again, we're at all-time highs. So then you have to always look at what current market's doing when it's trying to reverse. But then when it does end up reversing, it's very hard to get some sort of retest in the market here to then get an entry, and then price just ends up completely collapsing, which is what it did. So hopefully, and this is going to lead into next week's forecast, we may get some sort of retest on this move to then give us a better trade going into next week. I did sort of leave US 100 out, but because gold was playing a bit, difficult last week to trade, I did have a look at some US 100, but again, that trade just kept falling down anyway, so on Friday. But without further ado, let's get into this week's forecast. So I'm going to quickly touch on the news events for this week. So we have, on Monday, we have core retail sales a month. That's at 1:30 UK time. I think that will be 8:30 New York time. I haven't changed the time zone here. Tuesday we have Chair Powell speaking. Wednesdays we have no main news, so that could be like a continuation based off this move. And then we have Thursday, which has unemployment claims, which could perhaps provide a reversal throughout the end of the week. So it's something to look at. So Monday will be a very interesting day, and it could be, if I go back to the chart, which is here, Monday could be a retest of this drop here. So we have a decent amount of news events. I think Monday will be a trade to wait and see if we get some sort of retracement, and then Tuesday could be a continuation based on that. If we look at the daily time frame, you can see prices now come back to these relatively equal lows, which I was marking up. So this is why I was looking for a sell move, because I would like to see price start attacking these lows for liquidity. If price attacks these lows, this could end up breaking structure for market to start turning back around. It's very hard to trade because when I was looking at the dollar index as well, the dollar index has been flying. And again, I've been marking these little zones because I was expecting price to tap into this daily fair value gap, back to the weekly fair value gap, and price to jump up. And that's exactly what it did. It went straight through there, and I think we should find some resistance at this volume void. But with the dollar index also flying and gold also flying, it's very hard to sort of find that sort of correlation to trade it. So it's one of those, I think it's those times where in the market where everyone's sort of buying gold, they're getting ready, but also the dollar, there's a lot of manipulation going on in these markets, and technically there's always manipulation going on. Who am I kidding? But going back to gold, I'll give you a sort of map on what I'm looking for. I will be waiting for the start of the when the market opens to see if these lows get taken out. If they do, this could be a sort of class as a sort of structure break. So if we do get that retracement back towards the drop from Friday, this could be a good chance to potentially enter some sells to see where if price wants to push back lower. I do see that this is a decent sort of spike where the market has taken out its liquidity completely, then distributed back down to the downside, which we were expecting, but it was quite a big sort of move up, which is good to see because we could get, price retracing this move to then push down. So that's my first scenario. You want to see these lows get taken out first, and I do think they should, because again, gold is very high at the moment. I do want to see gold start pushing back down at least towards the end part of this month. So you would want to see these lows get broken, see how low it can end up going, and then once you start getting that retracement, you're likely to see price push back up towards this area here to retest this broken breaker block that we have here, and then you could see potentially price pushing back lower. So that would be a sell trade that I'll be looking for next week, and sticking with the strategy, and hopefully you may see next week might be a day where we end up making all that potential loss back. So that's what I'm hoping for and looking to see that happen. If price fails to break below these lows, you're likely to see price continue back up. Then this is just a big retesting this bullish order block on the 4 hourly time frame. You can see that we have fair value gaps where price is now pushed down into. If price does not break below these lows, I'm being clear that price may accumulate, and we may see price push all the way back up to that high again. So that is something I'm going to be looking forward to as well next week. So I've got both scenarios, both sort of planned out in my head. It's always good to have that. And if we look at the dollar index to see what we've got going on here, price has now filled the daily fair value gap here, and I do see that price will likely continue up to at least find some resistance within this volume void, which could provide a retracement back in towards this bullish order block. And then I'm still very bullish on the dollar index to see price start pushing up above these highs and into this big daily fair value gap that we have. I think that would be a weekly one, which I marked, but I mean daily. So there's the daily fair value gap in this here. Yeah, that was a weekly one that I marked. So it's a big zone. So I do still see the dollar index pushing up. Now, the only way I see this being bearish is if price pushes below this level here and back into this weekly fair value gap, then we're likely to see price start pushing back down. So again, two scenarios in the dollar index gives us that sort of slightly correlated view against the XAUUSD. So we're hopefully likely to see if market wants to start getting back into order and start calibrating against the dollar index, because if I sort of bring dollar index into here, and you can potentially see that the correlation is not, it's pretty much in line, to be honest, if you start thinking about it like that, where you can see that as gold is going up, the dollar index is also going up. So hopefully if we see a sort of retracement here and the dollar index where price sort of moves back down here, this could then end up seeing gold sort of do that retracement like that, and then we're likely to see the dollar index push back up, could see gold push back down. So we may get that correlation back into the market going into next week. So I'd like to touch on that, and that's how I sort of use the dollar index sometimes. to provide my assistance with gold if I'm expecting more bullish moves on dollar index. This is why I was looking for sales on gold, but because gold is being bought heavily in these sort of times in these markets, again, a lot of people are talking about financial crisis. That's why a lot of people are buying gold. They're sort of hoarding that, using that as a safe haven. But it doesn't make sense against why the dollar index is also being pumped at the same time as well, because they usually have that inverse relationship. But it's one of those ones. We have to stay out of these times in markets and wait for the right setup. So again, I'll be waiting for the perfect setup. I do want to see price push below these lows, retrace and push back low back towards the monthly open. So that's pretty much it on the weekly forecast. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Hope the sound quality is good. If you did, don't forget to leave a like, comment on any feedback, and don't forget to click that subscribe button to keep up to date. It's been Always FX. Peace out.